Okay, welcome to the program. Glad to have you aboard today as we kick off trade deadline week around the NHL. Jeff Marek along with you. Welcome back to the sheet for this Monday, March the 2nd, which I've always maintained is the handsomest birthday. You'll like this one, Zach. Zach, I've always maintained that March the 2nd is the handsomest birthday in the NHL. You know why? You know whose birthday it is today?
Whose?
Henrik Lundqvist and Jonathan Eriksson. The two handsomest players to ever play in the NHL, and they just happen to have a birthday on the exact same day. But getting the frivolous conversation out of the way now, Zach. By the way, that's a great Bulldogs hat. Good to see you made out well as we came back from Wayne Gretzky territory and Bulldogs territory. That was a lot of fun. Thanks to the Bulldogs and Zach Hyman and the entire Hyman family and everyone. The Michael Andlauer event was fantastic on Friday. Got a chance to catch up with Steve Staios, as you'll see in a couple of days here on the Nation Network, but just a great event all around. And congratulations to Michael Andlauer as the first person to go into the Brantford Bulldogs Hall of Fame. Let's get right into what's on the program today. Zach, who's joining us, by the way, from his youth. Well, not how are we going to frame it? This is where you grew up. Like, this is the house you grew up in, right?
Yeah, this is the childhood bedroom. You can see all the Leafs memorabilia, all the pictures.
Yeah.
On the shoulder here, all the autograph pictures and everything. Just got all set up this morning, so we're ready to go now. There's the most amount of hockey memorabilia ever in here.
Is that a picture of you playing lacrosse over your right shoulder there, too? Look at you go.
It is.
He's a Canadian kid, hockey and lacrosse. Pour maple syrup on Zach. He's all Canuck. All right, here we go. Let's get right to it. Trade deadline week kicking off here on the sheet. The Blueprint is powered by FanDuel. Download the app today and play your game on FanDuel. We're going to take our time today because we have a lot to get to, so it's a good thing we have Pierre McGuire along with us to help sort it all out. It is trade deadline week, but also Jim Hiller out as head coach of the Los Angeles Kings. DJ Smith in on an interim capacity until the end of the season. We'll see what happens there. And we're going to talk a lot about Robert Thomas and some potential destinations as his name is capital H hot out there as trade deadline week kicks off. It all culminates Friday at 3 o'clock Eastern, deadline close. In the meantime, joining us now, no stranger to this program. You watch him and listen to him on the eye test and a number of other properties as well. He's everywhere. He's Pierre McGuire, and we've got him for the next little while to help sort out everything happening and maybe set the table as well for the week to come and how it works from a coach's point of view, how it works from a manager's point of view, some of the hot button names that are out there. But before we deal with the trades, we should deal with the firing. Anytime the crowd is chanting for your dismissal and you can't really do anything about it and you get pounded by the Edmonton Oilers, generally you keep checking the fax machine for pink paper. I don't know if anyone uses fax. I got to get a better reference now for people getting fired because no one uses fax machines anymore, I don't think. Your thoughts on Jim Hiller, now ex of the Los Angeles Kings. DJ Smith comes on in an interim capacity.
Well, I really feel bad for Jimmy. I've known Jimmy a long time, really respect him as a hockey man. He did some amazing things in the game, both as a player and as a coach, especially as an assistant coach. Yeah. I'm happy for DJ. I can't stress that enough. I worked with DJ in Ottawa, like him very much as a person. He did not undermine Jim at all. I heard some people saying that. That's not the way DJ does business. No, that's not the way DJ does business at all. They're good friends. They worked together in the Babcock years in Toronto before DJ got his head job in Ottawa. Look, the team wasn't playing well. And I'll be fair, that defense isn't very good. I think you would agree with that, Jeff. And so I don't care how good a coach you are. You can't coach players to be better when they have a birth certificate like a lot of the defensemen have in LA, and their better years are way behind them. They're old. And they're beat down. And these guys all used to be good players. And some of them are Stanley Cup champions. But the truth of the matter is they're older and they're not nearly as good. And because of that, they're not nearly as good as a team. And all their problems start in the back end, I believe, in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I don't disagree there. I know at times the goaltenders have been hard to hit as well. But I think the overwhelming story from the Los Angeles Kings is just the inability to score goals. You know, I know coaches tend to coach defensively more so out of necessity. There are some exceptions to the rule, but if I'm Jim Hiller, I'm looking at my lineup and it's pop gun offense. And I say to myself, if we're going to win games, it's going to have to be 2-1. It's not the most exciting brand of hockey to play, but nonetheless, I'm glad you made that point about DJ Smith. And I got to know DJ pretty well through the OHL. And the one thing that I've noticed at his stops, he has a lot of loyalists out there. Like when you're a DJ Smith guy, like you're a dyed-in-the-wool DJ Smith guy for life. Like the amount of people that have both, proclaimed their loyalty to him and also even at their own career detriment. And this has happened at a couple of stops, just out of loyalty to DJ. The one thing that he has going for him too, outside of being a good coach, is he's a good people person, and especially players really gravitate towards him. There was one thing that I found really interesting. At the press conference Sunday with him and Ken Holland, general manager of the Kings, where he was asked about the series loss against the Edmonton Oilers and if it was something that still haunted this Los Angeles Kings this season. And I was expecting DJ to say, no, you know what, you put that in the rearview mirror. And he said, yeah, it did. Jacob Markstrom said something similar to me at the NHL Players Tour in Europe a couple of years ago after the Flames lost to the Edmonton Oilers. And we all know, like, the Oilers kind of always Markstrom kryptonite in Calgary, before that Edmonton as well. And it was almost to the point, like, that was the beginning of the end for the Calgary Flames. And now we find ourselves where, they've already traded out some pieces and there's going to be more going out the door too. But were you surprised that DJ Smith said this is a team that still is feeling or was reeling from the effects of that loss against the Oilers in the playoffs? I found that surprising.
I'm not surprised at all. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all, Jeff, because that's the way he carries himself as a man. When I was working in Ottawa, I get to the rink really early. I think the only guy that was there before me was Jack Capuano, who was the assistant coach to DJ. Yeah. DJ would come in not long after, and we're talking pretty early in the morning. And it was all about hockey all the time, and how can we make these players better, and how can we make our staff better. And I'll give you an example. One of the guys he really took a liking to was Michael King. Nobody would know that name. Michael King is one of the best video coaches in the National Hockey League. He works in Ottawa. He's an American kid. DJ really empowered him to take his game to another level, so to speak. And I was part of the negotiations on the Brady Tkachuk deal, along with the former general manager there and Peter McTavish. And one of the things that made the negotiation get closer to being done was getting a contract extension for DJ Smith. That's how much Brady thought of DJ. So I'm just going to tell you from an inside perspective, you probably haven't heard that or read that anywhere. I can tell you that was a fact, and it made a difference. So I've always been bullish on DJ, and I will continue to stay bullish on DJ.
If you're the Los Angeles Kings, and this is one of the questions obviously, put to Ken Holland, and that is, why the move now? And, Holland talked about, we're still in the playoff hunt here. Like, I know right now we're on the outside looking in, but it's not as if, like, no disrespect here, but the Pacific isn't exactly the strongest division in all of hockey. Like, it's not as bad as, here comes historical reference again, it's not as bad as the Norris division in the 1980s, where you made the playoffs if you got 60 points. All the games took 4 hours, but you got to the playoffs if you got 60. It's not like that, but it's not as if, the Pacific is sort of wrapped up as we see the Central right now, with the three killers occupying spots 1, 2, and 3. Pacific is still jump ball here. I want to get to Vegas and Edmonton in a couple of seconds, and even Anaheim, but are the Kings still in it? Yeah, technically the Kings are still very much in this thing.
So I'll do what I do every day. I make different lists. So one of the lists I made this morning were 10 teams that should be selling, and I'll start in the East.
Okay.
Rangers, Devils, Toronto, Florida, Philadelphia. Those are my 5 in the East. In the West, Vancouver, St. Louis, Chicago, Calgary, Winnipeg. So I have 10 teams out of 32 that I think should be looking to sell right now. Doesn't mean they will, but they should. And some have already done it. The Rangers have already sold.
Yeah.
Jersey's been tinkering. We've seen Vancouver already make a big move. Calgary made a move. So we've seen moves happen with these teams already. So those are 10 out of 32 that I think should make moves. And it's because, to your point, Vancouver, Pacific, I don't think LA's ready to move yet. And the reason why they're not ready to move yet, because they still have a legitimate chance to be in the playoffs because of what you just said.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they still need goals. The Fiala injury hurts because Mako, that one
That's
hurts
a big
as
setback.
well. Like all of a sudden, it's not as if they have 15, 20 goal scorers here. Like this is a team that's having a hard time scoring. Although I really do like watching Kopitar play with Panarin and Kempe.
Yeah,
and when that thing clicks, it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. The first game was really fun to watch. The biggest thing, though, and I can tell you from having drawn up game plans. So for Adrian Kempe, I know he got the contract and everything else. Yeah. Life's not going to be fun for him the next probably 20 to 25 games because every time they play, the opposition is going to draw a big circle around his number and say he doesn't get any free time. So I'll give you an example of what I mean. Go watch what Buffalo did to Braden Point the other day. Go watch that. That's what Adrian Kempe is going to get. That's what Adrian Kempe is going to get the rest of the year.
Can I just make a quick point? You mentioned you took us to Tampa there and Braden Point specifically. Man, if anyone had any doubts about are the Buffalo Sabres legitimate or fool's gold, look what they did to the Tampa Bay Lightning on Saturday. And I thought that there was something that, I don't know about on its own, but should go a long way if Braden Point wins the Lady Byng this year. Did you see him not destroy Noah Ostlund?
Well, he did the damage with the first shot, and then he showed, and then he realized, look, this is a kid who's not very big.
Yes.
And he didn't grow up fighting in Sweden, playing at Djurgården. I respect that. This is a guy that played in the Western Hockey League, and he knows the tail of the tape. He knows when you can do it, when you should do it, and when you got to back off. I have so much respect for Braden and the way he's carried himself his whole career. It's a phenomenal story. But to your point about Buffalo, and I know you are a card-carrying, proud member of the Buffalo Sabres. I know you are. I know.
I love the sword. I grew up French Connection. Come on, Pierre. You know this.
Well, we all did. I saw part of that French Connection playing for the Montreal Junior Canadiens. So, I'll go before that. Buffalo's for real. I'm so happy for them. I had the longest chat with Jarmo Kekalainen last week, and they're for real.
That was a good show. That was a good show, by the way. That was excellent. You and Jimmy, that was excellent.
I just got to tell you right now, he's in business. He's not just resting on his laurels. They're going to do something. You know that.
You think so?
I do. See, and one of the things they're going to do is they're going to get Luke Tuch signed. That's number one.
You think
Alex
Tuch?
That's the wrong Tuch. I apologize.
You think they're getting him signed, or are they looking at him and just saying, you know what? Even if we don't get him signed, we're keeping him because listen, Terry and the whole organization wants to get the number 14 away from this team.
I think they're going to sign him, and I think he's staying. I don't think he's getting traded. And if he does, I'll be the first person to come on your show and
I don't think he's traded. I don't think. I think they just keep him, and then if you say you want greener pastures, go for it.
Yeah, I still think he's going to sign there. But anyways. Look at the development of their defense. Look at how much better the defensemen are there. Yeah. Let's start with Matthias Samuelsson. Then you go to Bowen Byram. Look at Rasmus Dahlin. What an impact player. Owen Power. You hear what Jarmo said to us the other day? He's defending like a beast that we need him to be. All these different things. I just think Buffalo's a great story. Just like Pittsburgh's a great story. I remember at the beginning of the year doing a show with you, and people were like, well, where's Crosby going to end up? Where's Malkin going to end up? What's going to happen with Letang? Can they eat some money on Carlson?
How's Crosby's French, Pierre? Remember those conversations?
Exactly. Can we eat some money on Carlson and move him somewhere else? They're not doing any of that stuff. Ask Vegas. Yeah. Vegas took it right in the chin from him yesterday. So, Buffalo and Pittsburgh are two great stories. They really are. They're great, great stories.
They're excellent. Islanders are too. Matt Schaefer has become one of the best stories around the NHL, and I want to get to Schaefer in a second here.
Yeah.
But the other big name, like whopper of a name that's out there, Elliot mentioned him again and brought up Utah. I could see that as well. Schmaltz probably won't be back, and that opens up space for the money, etc. And that's Robert Thomas with the St. Louis Blues. And the team that I like, first of all, I understand the rumors about Montreal. That makes sense. And up the gut with Suzuki and Robert Thomas looks really, really good if you're the Montreal Canadiens for the next 10 years. The one team that I keep coming back to, and I would have to imagine that Jason Botterill has at least had the conversation with Doug Armstrong. I really wonder about Seattle. Now, first of all, Robert Thomas has no trade protection, so he's controlling it here. One thing that you could look at too, and we forget, like Seattle Kraken play in a tax-free state. So if you agree to waive, you're getting a raise. You agree to go to Nashville, Tampa, Florida, Dallas, you agree to waive, you're getting a raise because it's a no-tax state. If I'm the Seattle Kraken, and right now they're nip and tuck for the playoffs right now in a wild card position with Utah, given that you would have all the things necessary for that trade, first-round draft pick, high-end prospect, and a player, like that would probably be at least like the minimum to get into that conversation and sit at that poker table. Given that you're having a hard time scoring goals too, how do you turn down the idea of trying to get one of the premier playmaking centers in the entire NHL under the tent? Now, it might cost you Shane Wright. I get it. But still, you got to give if you're going to get. Seattle, to me, makes a ton of sense. But when you look at the landscape for Robert Thomas, Pierre, like what jumps out at you?
Well, Seattle was one, so you took that off the table for me, but it's a great call, and I could see Shane Wright being part of that. There's no question in my mind, Jeff. And they do have enough assets in order to be able to do that. I think Montreal, I've been talking about it in Montreal with the great Mitch Melnick for about a year and a half now about Robert Thomas. So it's not something that's a foreign concept to me. I'll never forget doing Stanley Cup final games between St. Louis and Boston, and Robert Thomas would come by in the warm-up in the pregame skate, and I'd be like, kid, you have no idea how good you are. You're on your way to being a star. I told him that. He'll probably remember too. I would marvel because I go watch him practice. That year that they won the Stanley Cup, I did every single St. Louis Blues playoff series, every single one. And I would watch them practice on off days, and I would marvel. I'd be like, "Whoa, this guy! I don't even know if this guy knows how good he's going to be. He's really good." So it makes sense with Seattle. I think it would make sense, obviously, in Montreal. They need a second center. I don't know what the situation is with Crosby health-wise. I know, and so today I heard from very good sources in Pittsburgh. He actually skated today in Pittsburgh. Now, it's one thing to skate. It's another thing to play in an NHL game. So I don't know where that part is, But Pittsburgh would be a place I could see where, because of the age of Malkin, needing a contract as well, Crosby injury, and they're playing with house money right now, and they got a whack. They got a whack of prospects. They got a lot of guys.
They really do, and they've got I know that when you look at the Dubas resume in Pittsburgh, the Jari contract sticks out, but they solve that. The Graves deal, I get it. No manager bats 1,000, but when you look at the way that Dubas has gone after sort of reclamation projects, second chance guys, and the one that pops to mind right now, if you extrapolate it over an 82, soon to be 84 game season, he's trending towards 70 points and 35 goals. And who's thought that Igor Chinnikov was going to be that guy when we saw him either scratched or playing fourth line with the Columbus Blue Jackets? He looks fantastic.
Mentorship matters a lot in this league, my friend. And Geno Malkin's been an amazing mentor to him. And when Malkin came into the league, people forget his mentor was the great Sergei Gonchar. So Malkin appreciates. Yep. He appreciates what's gone on, and Chinnikov's been the beneficiary of that. Pittsburgh's done a lot of things right. I know there have been some, bogeys. There's no question since Kyle went there, but way more right than wrong. Way more right than wrong. Go look at their American League team. Look at, Avery Hayes and the way he's played. He's just a bucket full of energy. I can go down the line with all their guys that they've done. The Ryan Shea might be the most improved player in the National Hockey League. Most people don't even know Ryan Shea plays for the Pittsburgh Penguins. You look at Parker Wotherspoon, who was toiling in the American Hockey League, whether it was in Bridgeport or in Providence for years and years and years. He's playing in the first tandem in Pittsburgh. I mean, it doesn't stop. Connor Dewar with Blake Lizotte and Nola Chari could be one of the best fourth lines in the National Hockey League.
It's the best fourth line here. It's the best.
Those are all reclamation projects. Not trying to be rude, just to tell you the truth. They're all from different organizations. Anybody could have had these guys. So I give Kyle and his pro scouts a lot of credit. Jason Spezza as well. They've done some good work.
And I know they love the Sergei Murashov kid who made a glove save just like incredible this weekend in the American Hockey League too. I know there are big plans for Murashov. I think he's rocking like a .934 save percentage in the AHL, which, as many have always pointed out, in some ways it's harder to play net in the American League than it is in the NHL. That one's going to be a good one. Okay, let me ask you about a team here.
Yep.
And that is the Vegas Golden Knights. And we're used to Kelly McCrimmon, whether it's Barbashev or whether it's Hurdle, like big moves at trade deadline. Like that's all right. That's Kelly McCrimmon, Cowboy, Brandon Wheat Kings. Here we go. We're here to win the Stanley Cup. We're gonna break some things along the way, and we don't care. We'll clean up our cap space in the summer. Right now, we're here to win the Stanley Cup. You know, I was on with Jason Gregor every Sunday. We record DFO Rundown, and he dropped something on me yesterday that I'm still stunned by. November 20th, okay? A home game or an away game against Utah. November 20th. That's the last time Vegas beat a playoff team.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't look good against the playoff. They didn't look good against the playoff team.
They did not.
They did not. Now, a couple things. We'll see how that translates. They've made one acquisition so far, obviously getting Rasmus Sanderson. And earlier in the year, the Carter Hart situation. We'll see how it all plays out for them. I still think they're a better team than what their record is. And you said it, the neighborhood they're in right now is not overly difficult.
No.
I'll just say this. Take politics out of it. Take everything out of it. Just focus on hockey for 1 second. So don't bring up all the political – not you, but the fans. Don't bring up the political stuff. The best free agent signing last summer, without a doubt, not even close, was Joel Quenneville of the Anaheim Ducks. It's not even close. Not even close. He's the best free agent signing. He was the best free agent signing in the summer.
There's a couple of things to that. One, excellent coach, obviously. Two, recruiting tool for Pat Verbeek. Like, there are a lot of teams, as you well know, there's a lot of teams that have a lot of players that have Anaheim on the no trade. Now, I'm not going to go to Anaheim. All of a sudden, the conversation turns into, you don't want to go to Anaheim? They're in the playoffs, and Joel Quenneville's the coach. Chris Kreider would not have gone to Anaheim if Joel Quenneville wasn't the coach. Great one. That's a perfect example of what you just brought up. And he's got, can you imagine, maybe the quietest 20 goals in the league. Does anybody know Chris Kreider has 20 goals this year? How many of them are power play? Doesn't matter. Not that it matters, but I mean, but that's the thing. Like, going into this season, one of the things we said about the Anaheim Ducks, their power play has to improve. Their power play has to get better. You're right. It's a very good point by you. Here's the best player in the NHL that nobody knows is Leo Carlsson. People will start to know him. Hockey people know him, but the fans around the league don't know him enough. Yeah, he's the best player in the league. Nobody knows. It's like, everybody's entitled to their opinion. So I look at all these different lists every day that people come up with. Norris Trophy this, Hart Trophy that. Yeah. Most of the lists are really good. I don't see Jake Sanderson's name in the top 5 on anybody's list for the Norris. Does anybody watch Ottawa play? He's phenomenal. Did anybody watch the Olympics? Like, how is he not in the discussion? He should be. Absolutely. Yeah, he's one of the hidden gems. I don't know why. He's one of the best defenders in the NHL. Like, I'm a big fan of that Ottawa team. And I think Jake Sanderson's like top of the list on that squad. Like, and listen, Allmark wasn't great on Saturday, but the Ottawa Senators had their way with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I'm not just basing it on just one game, but I look at Steve Staios' team and I say to myself, if this Ottawa team was getting 910 save percentage, 915, maybe even 905, they're probably second in the Atlantic behind the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that's how good this team is. If they don't lose Brady after the hit from Roman Josi earlier in the year, that changed a bunch of things. They lost Shabbat for a while too. That hurt them a little bit. They're still not deep enough on the right side of their defense. That's something that Steven Stais is going to have to take advantage of and work on. But the save percentage stuff is spot on. It couldn't be more right. And if they did, I do think they would be a top 3 team right now. And that Atlantic division, I thought it would have 5 teams like last year in the playoffs. I still think they're going to have 5 teams this year. Hey, you know what? Really quietly, getting back to one quick point about the Ducks, something that should probably get more concert than it has. Cutter Gauthier has got 28 goals.
He'd fit okay in Philadelphia. He'd fit okay in Philly.
Holy smokes, Gauthier looks good.
And that's not a knock on Drysdale, by the way. Drysdale's a good young player. But he's not a scorer like Cutter Gauthier is. So he's just not.
That conversation in Ottawa, because that was a conversation too, right? I mean, you were there. Like, do you take Drysdale or do you take Sanderson?
That was just before I got there. That was a year before.
Was it a year before? Yeah, that was an interesting one. That was an
before
interesting
I got there. Well, just one more thing. You brought that up. Can you imagine if you redid that draft with what you know now? Stützle and Sanderson, you could make the argument would go 1 and 2. You could make, and then nobody talks about how good Ridley Gregg is for the role they've created for him. And nobody talks about what Tyler Cleven's doing in the third pair in a penalty killing situation. All 4 of those guys in the top 2 rounds for Ottawa. That's an unbelievable draft for that.
Lucas Raymond would probably be 3, depending on how you feel about Askarov. He would probably be in your top 5.
Probably.
If you redid that,
yeah,
if you redid that draft.
What I'm saying. And that's not, look at all these other guys that went either before, not far after. They're all really good players. But it's hard to say that anybody's going to be more dynamic in that draft than Stützle. And it's hard to say that there's a better defenseman in that draft than what Jake is, Sanderson. Pretty amazing.
Sanderson's elite. Speaking of elite defensemen, Matthew Schaefer's got 20 goals. But the thing about it, like I've always looked at Alexander Ovechkin, and you can also make the same point about Sidney Crosby with what I'm about to say here. I've looked at those two and I've said, like, there's a salary cap, so we all know it. There's like a maximum amount that players can make. But given how much Ovechkin has meant to the bottom line with the Washington Capitals, whether it's franchise valuation, whether it's sold out houses, whether it's jersey sales, like all of it, established the brand nationally, all of it. I've always maintained that the 2 most underpaid players in the history of the game might just be Ovechkin and Crosby for what they've been able to do financially to those organizations. And I don't know that I want to put Matthew Schaefer right there, but it's not just what Schaefer's doing on the ice with the Islanders. Like, the Islanders have turned from a team where there wasn't a lot of happy headlines to one of the best headlines in the entire NHL. And he has a personality that goes right along with that good news story. He's impossible not to like. It's like someone saying, yeah, you know what? I think oxygen is overrated. Like, he is like that. Like, how do you not, like, you don't like playing against him, but like, how can you not cheer for Matthew Schaefer? And if you didn't know his backstory, by the time he got to the draft, like, everybody knows the backstory and how much of a good human being this guy is. He's done, like, both on the ice and off the ice, marvels for the New York Islanders.
So there's a lot there. So I'll start with Ovechkin and Crosby. If it weren't for Ovechkin and Crosby picking up Gretzky and Lemieux and what they turned over, you would never have the national TV contract that you have right now, because I was at NBC for 16 years, and most of our programming was built on the rivalry that is Pittsburgh and Washington. And it was built on 2 superstar players in Crosby and Ovechkin. And the storylines kept running and going deeper and deeper. And what it led to was unbelievable and substantial TV growth over 16 years at NBC. And that led to ESPN wanting to get back in. That led to TNT wanting to get back in. That led to the NHL giving the contract to 2 different holders, and it allowed them in year 1 coming out of COVID to almost pay off $1 billion in losses because of those TV contracts. So to your point, you're spot on about them. In terms of Matthew Schaefer, and this is one that doesn't get talked about enough, I love the fact that ownership with the Islanders, whether it was Mr. Malkin or Mr. Ledecky, were wise enough when they knew they had this 17-year-old turning 18 to put him in with a legendary Islander player. I can't say enough about Matt Martin,
Yep.
what he's done for that young man and how that young man carries himself. It's a tremendous story, and more teams need to pay attention to that stuff. There are a lot of young players. I'm not going to go deep and tell you who they are or why. You can figure it out if you're a hockey fan, that when they turn pro as 18 or 19-year-olds, they got hung out to dry because they weren't with families, and it was just too much too soon, and they got in trouble, and they never had the careers they should have had. And that's not going to happen with Matthew Schaefer. And he's just such a highlight reel to watch. He's so much fun to watch. He's a spectacular talent. He really is. And I can't say Matt Martin, I know he just went into the Sarnia Sting Hall of Fame.
He did, yeah.
Matt, you are an amazing man. I'm sure he watches some of these, or his friends do. I can't say enough good things about Matt Martin. I'm just telling you, from all the years I was around him, I have huge respect for Matt. Huge.
Yep. Good family man too. Well, when you watch Schaefer play, this might be unfair. There's not a direct comparison. There's like elements of different defenders. Certainly the skating is sublime. The vision is incredible. The ability to chew minutes and not get exposed, and his defensive posture. Like, does anybody come to mind for you?
Yeah, two people. So I've used this before. We were trying to get a pick so we could draft him, Scotty Niedermeyer out of Kamloops.
Yeah.
The skating is very similar to with Schaefer. And early on in my coaching career at the college level, I went to a school to recruit or watch some players, and it was called Avon Old Farms in Avon, Connecticut. And I saw this kid dominating on defense. His name was Brian Leach. And he was so much better than the other players, it was insane. So when I watch Matthew Schaefer, and I talked to Kevin Stevens about this, by the way, one of my old players from Pittsburgh, who is doing so fantastically well in life, It's
good.
Kevin and I were talking, and I said, that Schaefer guy, he's got a little bit of Leach. And you got to remember, Kevin and Brian Leach were roommates in the 98 Olympic team. So they're buds. Like, they know each other really well. So I said, he reminds me a little bit of Brian Leach, and he reminds me a whole lot of Scotty Niedermeyer. So you merge the two together, and that's what you get. You get Matthew Schaefer. That's an amazing player, man.
It's not bad. That's not bad. Like, start to get the plaque ready. It's Young and Front Street in downtown Toronto. Listen, Islanders have been a great story. Like, listen, like the turnover right now, as far as like playoff teams go, there've been some great surprises. This is why, like, I'll tell you, Pierre, you know what the bane of my existence is in hockey media? Predictions. Oh, we got our preseason predictions. We got playoff predictions. We got to do. First of all, we're all throwing darts, really. Second of all, I'm someone that loves like, and I guess everybody's like this. I love to be surprised. I love being surprised by the Pittsburgh Penguins. I love being surprised by the Buffalo Sabres. I love being surprised by the New York Islanders. And if I had written in my preseason predictions, it's going to be, end of this thing, it's going to be, the Islanders are in and the Sabres are going to be the, one of the best teams in the NHL from December on. And the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to make a huge push here, even without Crosby, and make it to the postseason. I don't know that my editor would publish that. I don't know. I'd still be talking to you right now. Like, okay, I think it's time for Grandpa maybe to go have the walk. Like, but here it is. It's been such a cool season that way in the Eastern Conference that we've seen specifically these three teams really take that leap. Now the question becomes, we've already sort of discussed it with the Buffalo Sabres. I do wonder about the Penguins and the Islanders too. From those three, are they all active by Friday? Is there something for all of them? Yeah?
I think so. I do. I think you're right. The Islanders are playing with house money right now. Pittsburgh's playing with house money. I don't think Buffalo is. I think the expectation for Buffalo the last little while has been they were going to be a better team, and they finally found it. And this is a great story because Lindy Ruff, remember at the beginning of the year? How the heck is this guy so good? He's got to get out. We can't have him.
He went through that in New Jersey too. Like, there was the fire Lindy chance, and then the sorry Lindy chance, which was a really nice touch, by the way, in New Jersey as well.
Now they made a good decision because Lindy's coaching his butt off, and so is his staff. So I'm really happy for Lindy. But you look at it all. Those stories are good. I'm looking at the disappointing stories. The New Jersey Devils are a major disappointment. The New York Rangers are an unbelievable disappointment. The Toronto Maple Leafs are an unmitigated disappointment. They really are. And people can say, well, I never thought they'd be in the play. You never thought they would lay an egg like they did in Florida in the first period, or the way they laid an egg in Tampa when they came back from the Olympics, or the way they played against Ottawa on a Saturday night in a home game they had to win. Like, nobody thought that was coming. And the disappointment for me more than anything else is guys that haven't gotten better there. Like, Morgan hasn't gotten better. Matthew Nyes has taken a big step backwards. Yeah. Like, I'm being honest. It breaks my heart to say this. The depth of their lineup, which was supposed to be, quote unquote, the change of DNA that they were looking for, that hasn't materialized. And the biggest thing is obviously they miscalculated the value of Marner. You can debate it all you want, but you can't argue with the numbers. Yeah. The numbers aren't very friendly for those that are Marner bashers. You'd be wrong, because the numbers would crush you. They would crush you.
Here's one of the things, and you're right. Compounding the Florida trip, right, coming out of the Olympic break, is Keith Pelly went. Keith Pelly was on the trip, and sometimes that'll snap a team to attention. Oh, the big guys here. We better mind our P's and Q's. Quite the opposite happened, and then Saturday happened, where the Maple Leafs, like Ottawa, had their way with Toronto for all three periods. Mm-hmm. I know the score effects made it look closer than it was in the third period, but that was domination by the Ottawa Senators. What I keep coming back to is what Craig Berube said after, when he talked about, and he didn't even say it, he just pointed. When he pointed at his heart and then pointed at his head and said that's up to them. Part of me said, because I believe the phrase is quiet quitting. Like, is that the coach just saying, I don't know what to do with these guys? It's supposed to be heart, it's supposed to be head. I can't do anything with you. I can't. I'm expired with this team. That's the way it felt to me, Pierre.
Well, I remember doing a game. I'm not going to give you the teams. I'm not going to give you the coach. But I was doing a game in the Western Conference probably around 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. That was a pretty important game at the time. And the coach behind one of the benches looked at me and he went like this. He threw his hands up in the air. And he said, I've tried, and mouthed it to me, I've tried everything. And then at the end of the game, I went and met him in the hallway. He's a good friend of mine. And I said, what's up? What's bugging you? And he goes, I can't get these guys to buy in. It's like they've turned it off. And he was right. They had turned it off. They didn't want to hear it anymore. And they thought that their way was going to work, and it didn't work. And, obviously, eventually there was some pain for everybody. The coach was his job. Players get traded out of town. Yeah. Stuff happens, So they're not the only team that's had that, talking about Toronto, and they won't be the last team to have it happen either. That's just part of it. You got to figure out. Bowman had the best line. Within the confines of an NHL team, there's 5 guys that love you. There's 5 guys that hate you.
Yeah.
The guys in the middle, don't let them get too close to the guys that hate you. Make sure they get closer to the 5 guys that love you. And it's a good line because it does make sense. It makes a lot of sense.
It really does. The thing about the Maple Leafs too, Pierre, is I don't know, given the reality of what July 1st is going to bring, which is everybody's signed. Like, Schmaltz free agent, Tuch free agent, discuss amongst yourselves afterwards. And they don't have the assets to swing a big deal, nor do I think they have the appetite to change anything from the core. I don't know how this thing gets better.
They're going to have pain. They got to make sure people understand there's going to be pain. I think if they're honest, and they can fix it. Like, they don't have the assets right now in the American League. I know their roster really well. I watch a lot of their games. They definitely don't have it with their, amateur drafts. Easton Cowan, it can be argued, is their best prospect beside Ben Danford.
Yep.
Jacob Quillen's got to be part of that discussion.
Yep.
But again, there are other players that will be fine. They'll be good depth players. But I look at last year, Fraser Minton, I don't want to rehash the trade, but he's in Boston now. But part of the byproduct of Fraser Minton ending up in Boston is Steves also ends up in Boston.
Yeah.
They couldn't find room for Steves in Toronto, but yet the Bruins could find room for Steves to play on their team, and he's crushing it. And they just signed him to an extension. And part of why they got Steves is because they spent a lot of time as pro scouts watching Fraser Minton. That's how they ended up with the player. So, I mean, it was like it's a double whammy on that one. And if you're not, this is the – I'm going to go to a Craig Patrick one now.
Okay.
You got to know your team better than anybody else knows your team. And if somebody knows your team better than you, then you got a problem. And I think there are people around the league that might know Toronto's team better than some of the management knows Toronto's own team.
Park on that, because this is one of the things that I think we should have discussion about, and we should have it every year on NHL trade deadline week. And that is one of the hardest things to do as a manager is have an accurate snapshot of who your team is and not overvalue your players. I find that managers a lot, and this is why we don't see a lot of movement in hockey. We see a lot of movement in basketball, right? You see a ton, but we don't really see it in hockey. And I keep coming back to this idea that every manager overvalues what he has. I shouldn't say most. A majority, whether it's slim or a big majority, the majority of managers overvalue what they have. True or false?
True. The best managers don't. And the best managers know the value of a player. Nobody was, and please, this is for the younger generation out there. Please don't tell me there was a better general manager in the history of the National Hockey League than Sam Pollock. Please don't even try. Don't even try.
Bill Torrey?
No. He was not.
Bill Torrey started from nothing. He got 4 Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
You know, blank piece of paper.
Those expansion rules that he was playing by? You know,
Sam understood the landscape better than anybody.
He was the best general manager in the history of hockey. And what they did, they built up farm systems. It's a long story, but and I know what people say to me, "Oh, McGuire, you're just biased because you're a Canadiens fan, and you don't realize they always had the chance to draft the 2 best French-Canadian born." I get all it. Don't worry. I know what the rules were. So I understand how it all played out. But he was a great general manager. And the biggest thing that Montreal understood better than anybody else, don't overrate your prospects. Because if you do, you're doomed to fail. And don't overrate your players. And they had a famous line there. If you fall in love with your players, it's like, and I won't tell you the first part of it, it's like falling in love with a racehorse. All I'll end up doing is costing you money. So you got to be really smart. You can like players, don't fall in love with players. And I think a lot of people in today's marketplace, because of this, they fall in love with players because they read what other people write and they think, wow, that's so cool. They're writing about my players. I wouldn't that should be out of the mindset of all these people. Can I ask you this honestly?
Yeah, of course.
Half the people that formulate opinions on players, how many of them ever got paid to run a scouting department? Or how many of them ever got paid to be a manager? Or how many of them got paid to be scouts in the business?
A tiny fragment of them. Yeah. But bless every single one of them for having the nerve to be a hockey fan. But at the same time, you have your staff for a reason. You have your scouting department for a reason. It's easy to get caught up in what everyone this isn't new. Listen, I'm sure you've seen when the hockey news was the leading tastemaker in hockey, and this was decades. This is the first thing I ever subscribed to as a kid was a hockey. I gobbled this up. This was the gospel. This was the good news. Pierre, hockey news would show up on my doorstep every Thursday afternoon. I'd get home from school, and my mom would "Here you go." So hockey news every Thursday. Fantastic. And I was in my room and not a peep. Because I read the thing front to, and this was the biggest tastemaker and opinion maker in the industry. But still, as a manager, you have to resist it. That to me, that is a skill that all managers need to have. Respect what people are saying, and all your fans, they're the ones that pay the freight. But you hire staff for a reason.
Yeah, and you got to hire people that are not going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you what you need to hear. And that's where we have a bit of a problem, too, on the decision-making side with some hockey teams. But to be fair, Hockey's never been better. The future of the sport is brilliant. Franchise values have never been better. Commissioner Bettman and Deputy Commissioner Dahlin deserve a lot of credit with the Board of Governors. They've done a great job. The TV money's better than it's ever been. They deserve credit on that. But the one other thing I think is important, because we're going to have expansion.
Yeah.
And this is for all those people out there saying there are not enough good players to have another 2 teams. That's a bunch of malarkey. That is so untrue. There are more than enough good players to play National Hockey League hockey.
Do you think
There
that
more than enough?
Because we saw offense juiced in the NHL after 67 expansion, right? Yep. Like it was remarkable. And it's not exclusive to Bobby Orr and Phil Esposito, but like it's just remarkable numbers. It's just ridiculous. And the argument is that we'll start to see more of an offensive explosion if you quote unquote allow a couple new teams in and water things down a little more. Do you buy that?
No.
That we'll see more offense.
We'll see. Well, part of why you'll see more offense maybe is because the red line's out, so the stretch pass is apparent and allows teams to come from behind better. You can't squeeze the life out of a game with a 1-2-2 trap or a 1-4 delay in the neutral zone, because now you don't have the boundary to help set you up. Also, the new rules that came in under the Shanahan experiment in 2005 with zero tolerance of obstruction, hooking, and holding, that made a massive difference. And the one thing I'd like to see them get out, because I think it would lead to more goals, to that offensive explosion you're talking about, I want the trapezoid out. I want goalies to handle the puck. You know why? Because they don't handle the puck as good as defensemen or forwards. They'll make mistakes. Turnovers lead to chances. Chances lead to goals. Take the trapezoid out, because it would be better for hockey.
How about this as a compromise?
Okay.
How about this as a compromise? Because first of all, I'm with you. 100% trapezoid's gone. How about this? Yeah. Goaltenders, how about we just make it reversed? So you're allowed to go play it in the corners. Goalie just can't stop the puck behind the net. Rims go all the way around.
I don't have a problem with that. Actually, that's a very good compromise. As I think about it.
Goalies can't play the puck. Can't go behind the net to play the puck. If you want to limit something, like I'm all in favor of goalies go wherever they want, free to roam. Yeah. That's fine. You want to go follow the puck in the corner, go for it. But if you want to compromise, not the trapezoid in the corner, but the area behind the net.
No, that's good. No problem there, and I think that's smart actually. That's good. Good compromise. I don't want the trapezoid.
I'm with you. The other one that I can't seem to stop talking about. Have I told you my neutral zone face-off idea? No more neutral zone. Okay, so here it is. I'd be curious to see what the great Scotty Bowman thinks about this.
Okay, he's watching probably, so he'll tell you.
Scotty, with all due respect, Pierre, Scotty, this is for you. Okay. So here's my thought. Outside of the beginning of the period or after a goal, there should be no face-offs in the neutral zone. Keep the puck around the net. So you go offside, puck goes back into your zone. The idea being, neutral zone is a place to collect speed. And we drop pucks there, and to me, we just make such so much empty calorie time gets sucked off the clock as teams. First of all, a face-off at that position is going to result in essentially nothing other than a setup for a zone entry. All face-offs should be in a position where the offensive team can score. So offsides, the puck comes all the way back. I'm so intrigued
all the way back to your zone, all the way back.
Correct.
If you're the
you go offside, it goes back in. Essentially, it's like an icing. It's going back to your zone. The idea is fans come to watch goals, baby. That's what they come to watch. That's part of the excitement. That's part of the sizzle. Keep the puck around the net as much as possible. No more empty calorie neutral zone face-offs. Wow. We're keeping the puck around the net.
I like that. Actually, you know what? You know who would really like this? Kenny Holland, because I think you probably know that icing rule where you had to have the face-off and you couldn't change. Yeah, that was Kenny. Kenny came up with that. Yeah, it's
Kenny Holland. Yeah.
That was Kenny. So, he would be thinking, I kind of dig this. It's a pretty good idea. That's a very good idea.
Just keep
I'd have to war game it. So one of the things that I'm so blessed to do in 2005, when Shanahan had his summit and all the new rules were being put into place, Scotty and I war gamed all this stuff in terms of what it would mean as a coach or a manager. We were sitting at his place down in Florida. I won't tell you the town. I don't want him to get mobbed. But we were there and we war gamed it for like a couple of days, and it was good. And one of the things, like, we came up with different ways of managing the cap and all this, but it was really good in terms of how the style of play would be. And one of the things that we both thought, and he more than me because he's just way smarter, the ability of teams to come from behind. We didn't have that back in the day. Like, if we wanted to squeeze the life out of a game with our 2 Stanley Cup winning teams, we play a 1-4 delay in the neutral zone, and you could never stretch us out. And when we did that, like, it would just be ping pong. We called it ping pong in the neutral zone. Chip it in, chip it out, chip it in, chip it, like ping pong. And so I like what you just presented, because that would create a whole new wave of coaching tactics.
Yep.
It would be really good. And I think the offense would be cool. It'd be good.
The only thing that I worry about is teams would be less creative with zone entries, because the risk of it coming all the way back in your zone would be that much higher.
So here's the one compromise I'd ask you to make. And I've said this for a bunch of years. Some people agree, some don't. As soon as the puck touches the top of the blue line, everything's onside. So it doesn't have to all – once it touches the top of the blue, everything's onside.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Look at how tight the margins are. You know, we're talking about hovering skates now and all that.
Yep.
But if it was just once the puck touches the blue line, it's good. Go. It's okay. I think it would be a good compromise.
One day we're going to do the massage the rules of hockey roundtable, and I'm dragging you on that program all day long, Pierre. Before I let you go, I do want to ask you about the Edmonton Oilers. Okay. Things have not gone swimmingly for the Edmonton Oilers here, and there's I sort of go back and forth on the idea that Stan Bowman is going to do something big by trade deadline, or I know how up against the salary cap they are, as we saw with Regula and who else got placed on waivers yesterday? Mangiapane got placed on waivers as well. If I go back and forth between Bowman's going to do something this year, or he's going to keep his powder dry and do something for next season. They have 2 more years of Connor McDavid at 12.5. Where is Pierre McGuire at on the Oilers right now?
I think whenever you have elite players like they have in Draisaitl, obviously, and McDavid, you do everything in your power to try to win every year. I'll never forget going through the interview process the first time with the Pittsburgh Penguins, with David Morehouse, with Mario Lemieux, with Ron Burkle, and an attorney. I think it was my 3rd or 4th meeting. And one of the things that was really apparent to me after talking to them all those times, as long as they had Malkin and as long as they had Crosby, every year it was a mandate that you had to go for it, no matter what. That was mandated. And so it was something that whenever I saw these potential super teams like Edmonton has the potential to be, with those 2 great stars, every year you got a chance to go, you got to do it, because you can't waste a year. They've been to the final 2 years in a row and they haven't won. You know, at some point the clock starts to tick and then they're in trouble. So I would probably think Stan's going to do something this year.
Is it with the goaltending, or have they made their goalie moves and maybe wait till the offseason and like swing for Jesper Wallstedt or something like that in the offseason?
So I agree with you. So I think they already did their goalie move.
That's what I think too.
I just think they did. I mean, and look at Tristan Jarry. They probably had more intel on Tristan Jarry than anybody else, only because he had been in their organization. They own the Oil Kings. Yeah. So they knew more about him as a person, as an athlete, about everything than any other team in the league would know. And so they took a chance on him, obviously being able to turn it around. It hasn't worked out that well yet. But there are other issues there. I think the biggest thing, I'm glad that Paul's there. Paul's back, Paul Coffey. Yep. Not a knock on any of the other guys. I'm glad that Paul's there. He's a really good hockey man. That being said, until they're committed as a group to playing total team defense, I don't care who the goalie is. Like, they got to be committed as a group. They cheat the game a lot for offense. They do. People can say whatever they want. I watch every one of their games. They do a lot of cheating for offense. And some nights it works, but when you play against really good teams, it doesn't work.
You know what? There's I can't remember where I read it, but there's a saying about rats. and it goes like this. If you have rats at your house, it's always better if you kill them. But if the rat problem persists, it's an indication of a bigger problem at your house. And that's what I think about with goaltending, whether it's through Skinner or Tristan Jarry. Is this an indication of something bigger than just the goalies are hard to hit? Yeah, I'm with you on the defense.
It's total. It's not just a defenseman. It's a total team defense. It really is. I see guys cheating up ice, and I watch them going, "Oh man, that wouldn't have worked well in the Bowman era." something would have been said.
It's going to be a fun week. It's already underway, and the speculation is all out there, and some of the big names are out there, and there's always a surprise. There's always a surprise or two that no one sees coming. I've referenced, the Mantha Verana deal a couple of different times over the past couple, the Tomas Hertl deal from San Jose to Vegas. So should be an interesting week. We'll stay on top of it. Pierre, as always, you're excellent. Thanks so much for the expertise and the time. Really appreciate it, as always.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Really appreciate being on with you. Have a great day, everybody.
He's great. He's Pierre McGuire. He joins us on a consistent basis here on the sheet, and always appreciate his offerings and opinions. Very historically informed, as you know, if you've ever listened to Pierre McGuire, and comes from a place of authenticity and love too. Like at the end of it too, like you can tell the guys that love the game. Hey Zach, how's life at home?
It's good. I'm just waiting for any moment the dog to start clawing at the door or start barking or something, because
so like my place here,
my parents told me. Yeah, they told me that the dog has taken my room as hers. So at any given moment, Jeff, just so you know, through the course of this week and into next, that could start happening during the show. But I've been waiting. It hasn't happened today.
We should mention, it's not as if, Zach got kicked out of his condo and he's got nowhere to live, and he's, back with mom and dad here, and he's got, elephant ear pockets, and, doesn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. Like, you're in between places. Then when do you get your new place? That's soon, right?
March 10th. Yeah, March 10th to get it, and then I'll be moving March 11th into that place.
All right, so busy time for you right now. Busy time for you.
Not ideal.
How was the postgame show after Saturday?
Oof. It was spicy.
Yeah.
Look, I said I'm okay with the team being bad. That's how things go in the NHL. You're not going to be competitive every single year forever.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see them compete. I wanted to see some pride and some dignity in their play, and that game on Saturday, to be honest with you, it was embarrassing as a Leafs fan to watch that. You outlined it perfectly. Like, the Sens had their way with them, and the final score was not indicative of how the game was played.
Ottawa did whatever they wanted. Yeah. They were so good.
It probably could have and should have been 10-0 if the Sens had capitalized a couple more times. That's not to take away from anything the Sens did. Like, that's just how hockey goes sometimes. It was embarrassing. And I referenced the year before they got Austin Matthews, the Maple Leafs, that is. And I talked about the dignified tank. I don't know what you think about that term, but I think that was what it was coined in Toronto. Where it was like, they went out, they lost most nights, but they competed, and I could turn on the TV and just be okay with what I watched, because it was like, well, they tried hard and they lost 2-1. Well, they lost, but they lost in a close one, and they put up an effort, and, they battled, and then they got Austin Matthews. That was just pathetic on Saturday, and that was how the post-game, that was the reaction that fans had in the post-game. I took calls for 2.5 hours, and it was just people calling.
Why do you hate yourself like that?
Call after call.
Why do you hate yourself so much? I mean, bless every single fan that called in, too, but wow, that's a lot. Do you need therapy after that?
No, I am people's therapy. That's what I've realized over time. I am therapy for people. I'm not licensed. Dr. Alicia Nasser would probably be pretty disgusted to hear me say that I'm doing therapy for people.
That's a good point.
But that's what it is. And you know what? I kind of realize now that I'm not trying to make myself too important, but that's kind of what I am for Leafs fans. They call in, hear me yell and scream, and then they lose their minds and they call into the show. And then they all kind of end off at the end of their calls, and they're like, I feel better now. I'm like, well, there you go. I've done my job. So that's what it was for a 3-hour show where I ranted and raved for half an hour, and then everybody else called in for 2.5 hours.
You should start invoicing people is what you should start doing then.
Yeah, exactly.
For 2.5 hours, get some invoices and some Zach Phillips letterhead and drawn out. Start invoicing people that call in. Spend time with you after Leafs lost it. Maybe tonight again as the Leafs face off against the Bucks. By the way, there's a game starting here momentarily. And for many that may be asking, why is there an afternoon game, 2 o'clock, between the Nashville Predators and the Detroit Red Wings? 8 CET, Central European Time. This one for the Euro audience. I referenced, Eriksson and Lundqvist, and it's their birthday today, which is why March 2nd is the handsomest day on the NHL calendar, because the 2 handsomest players that maybe ever play the game, Jonathan Eriksson and Henrik Lundqvist, it's their birthday today. Nashville and Detroit, both playing at 8 Central European Time, which is the time that it is right now, which is 2 o'clock Eastern. So this one directed at the European audience. That's why they're playing 2 o'clock this afternoon. That's what they're playing now.
That's nice. I think it's honestly, I've kind of wondered, and you might have a better answer for it, but MLB season starts, and I get that it's summer, so it's a little bit easier for people when that happens, but they play day games.
Yeah.
I've always kind of wondered why that's not something that takes place a little more frequently. And I'm not talking about doing this every
NHL?
single day.
Oh, you're trying to sell
in
tickets,
the NHL.
man. People aren't going to buy tickets while they're at work, which is why one of the things that I wonder here, too, is are the teams financially compensated by the NHL for this? Because essentially this is a marketing-driven decision. It's a long-term play, right? So you don't have to, if you want to watch the NHL, you don't have to watch it at stupid o'clock in the morning. You can watch it at 8 o'clock Central European Time.
But they do like school games and stuff, what do they call them? Like next-gen games here in Toronto. That's what it's called. They do that,
yeah.
So opening those things up, I think, would be great, especially if you're trying to open up newer audiences. Like, we're trying to you can get a double whammy with that. It's, as they say in Trailer Park Boys, you get 2 birds stoned at once. You get the students and the young kids in there. and then the European audience, it's also just a nice thing to have on. A lot of people work from home now. Again, I'm not trying to say you do this all the time like the MLB does, but having it a little bit more frequently, or just popping up throughout the course of the season, I don't think is a bad idea. I think this is a nice one to have for the European audience to be able to tune into.
Here's one for you. Here's an idea for you.
Okay.
You mentioned next-gen game. Why don't you do old-gen game? Just one for the older generation. You could do it at 4 o'clock, so everyone could have dinner at 6:30. For guys like me, the old-gen game. And they all wear St. Pat's jerseys. How about that? With the brown pants and the gloves. Go back to that look. By the way, okay, I didn't know this until recently. So I've always thought that the one NHL jersey that no one knows where to find, it doesn't exist anywhere, was the Hamilton Tigers. Okay, they're around for a couple of years. The players went on strike and they folded the team. Whoa! The Hamilton Tigers. That jersey is nowhere. No one can find one. There have been rumors and whispers about where one might exist, but no one has produced one. You know what else doesn't exist anywhere? You, Toronto Maple Leaf fan?
What's that?
Original St. Pat's. No one can find one. Does not exist anywhere. Don't even bother going to eBay. Don't bother going to try to find one online. No. They do not exist. Phil Pritchard told me that one. The keeper of the cup, who's one of the great hockey historians, who's in charge of this kind of stuff.
I'm just looking at pictures of it.
Hamilton Tigers and Toronto St. Pat's. Doesn't exist. And you would think, one's Toronto, one's down the street, down the QEW in Hamilton. Those jerseys don't exist anywhere. Maybe someone has one in an
nice
attic.
Jerseys too.
Really nice jerseys, right?
Yeah.
Old gen.
They did the remake of them with the Matt Sundin era.
Yeah, look great.
But they're not the same. They're not the same. They're missing the arm bands and everything too, so a little bit different.
Great look, eh?
Interesting.
Great look.
I like these.
They're sharp. Get one of those behind you. That would impress me.
Yeah, I'll see what I could do. I got
pull
Alan
some
Stanley
money off
and
the
Rick
tree.
Vive back there.
I love it. Alan Stanley. I love RV too. Ricky Vive and Bill Derlego, one of the great unsung duos of 1980s hockey. Rick Vive coming down the wing and just cranking it, and Bill Derlego just feathering backhand sauce passes like he was Mark Savard, only he did it in the 80s. Billy D was like, they want like one of the most underrated skill players in the history of the game. Ask anybody who watched him play with the Brandon Wheat Kings in the Western Hockey League. As good as all of them. As good as all of them when it came to his skill set. Bill Waters was his agent at the time, and I worked with Billy. Billy once told me, he said, like, Billy D, like, you're better than like so many of these guys. Like, if you tried every single game, you'd make so much money. He said, yeah, you know what, Billy? I could score 40 goals every year, but if I do it once, they're going to expect me to do it again. That's too much pressure. And Derlego could have been that guy. He was so good. You know what Bill did better than anybody else? Here's this as an aside. Here you go. Stick this one in your pocketbook. You know what Derlego was famous for? Maybe you've seen this at the Faceoff dot. I know there's some players that would like spit on referees' skates. Billy D had the best. You pull up to the Faceoff dot. He would always fire a couple of snot rockets too. You watch Bill. I don't know whether it was like a habit, whether it was just like a tradition for him. He would saddle up to take a face-off, and right away, bam, bam, would fire him off. No one fired snot rockets at the face-off like Bill Derlego.
What the hell's the point of that?
I have no idea. I'd love to talk to Derlego about it, but nobody fired snot rockets in the history of the NHL better than Bill Derlego. If you take anything from this show today, let it be that. Okay. Bill Derlego, face-off snot rockets. Find me a better one. Find me a better player at firing snot rockets than Bill Derlego. Because you don't have enough going on in your life.
This just reminded me of this.
Yeah.
Do you know Skate On? And I bring up Skate On because I know a lot of people, even outside of Toronto. Yeah. So there was Yari and Marcin when I used to go.
Yeah.
I can't remember Marcin's last name, but they would skate around the ice. They had Ziploc bags of chew. And they would chew and spit the chew on the ice, and it would just freeze on the ice while we were skating.
No way.
And I didn't know what it was until I was older. Like, I was going when I was a kid. And then one day it hit me what it was that was going on the ice. Yeah.
It's amazing what happens when you grow up and you look back. You look back at all these things your coaches did when you were like 9, 10 years old. And like, that. I remember playing Little League Baseball when I was a kid, High Park, west end of Toronto. And we were practicing it was a Saturday morning. And our practice was at like 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock. It was really early for baseball practice. But anyway, it was when we got the diamond. And so Dick Perry and Ernie Keith, the field is named after Ernie now. They're no longer with us. Great men, great baseball coaches, wonderful people. So Dick was coaching us, and Ernie was late. And I was at the on-deck circle just doing BP, and Ernie showed up, and our other coach, Dick Perry, said to him, like, geez, Ernie, you're half an hour late. And he said, yeah, I was at a barbecue till 4:30 in the morning. And my buddy turns to me on the team. We're like 10 years old. He goes, who can eat until 4:30 in the morning? Is it a barbecue until 4:30 in the morning? Wow, that's a lot of eating. No. Then you get a little older and you realize. Anyhow, the sheet is powered by FanDuel. That was fun. Play your game with who can eat till 4:30. Play your game with FanDuel. It's the NHL season, and FanDuel is your home for all the action on the ice. From Blue Line to BetSlip, we've got you covered with unique promos, live offerings, and more features to let you play your game. If you missed Puck Drop, don't sweat it. With a live same-game parlay, you can build your bets up until the final buzzer. Download FanDuel Sportsbook today. and play your game. Please play responsibly, 18 plus and physically located in Ontario. If you have questions or concerns about your gambling or the gambling of someone close to you, please contact Connects Ontario at 1-866-531-2600 to speak to an advisor free of charge. Zach in a Bulldogs hat.
Okay, so this one, to be transparent here before we start it, I thought that I was hoping we would get to this little like 10 minutes ago. So you can jump on one of these live because, as Jeff pointed out, the game has started. So you can still bet it. It's not a problem. But you'll actually make more money if you bet it now. So let me get to this. Last night when I got home, my dad and I were talking. They have been going on vacations. One of the ones they just went on was a cruise to Alaska, Jeff, and he was telling me how awesome it was and how I should go or think about going with my girlfriend at some point on these Alaskan cruise. And I told him, I've been on enough cruises. I'd rather be at the lake than staring at icebergs.
I was wondering, I kind of had a feeling you're going to go Philip Forsberg, and good for you for getting that one in there. Good job, man. Jamie Benn. So look at you, got the red popping out. You're really taking this seriously. I love it. I've been on enough cruises. I'd rather be at the lake, Blake, than staring at icebergs. Jamie Benn, Jackson Blake, Philip Forsberg. Bravo. Kick and trade deadline week off. As a charm here, $5 wins you $240.70 from our friends at FanDuel. Bravo, Zacharoo. Hey, by the way, what do you want to see happen? You're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. You're also a hockey fan. What do you want to see happen this week?
You got to stock the cupboards back up here. Just from a Leafs perspective, I think you got to stock the cupboards back here. This is 9 years in the making of moving off of pieces to asset-wise to bring in guys that you thought were going to help you into the playoffs. It never worked. As long as the organization accepts, as Pierre said, which I didn't really love, not because I disagree with him, but I just don't want to hear it. There will be pain. It's like the Mike Babcock quote that he said when he got here. I don't want to hear that. But I'm okay with pain this year. It is what it is. It happens. You got to reset. You got to approach this more creatively with a different lens going into next year. I don't think that this can just stop at surface level trades. I don't think this can or should stop at expiring deals. You're Scott Laughton and Bobby McMahon. If you want to be competitive again next year, maybe that's not the best thing for the organization long term. And I recognize that as somebody who does like hockey as much as I love the Maple Leafs. I know that organizationally it might not be the best decision to just try to get at it next season. But as I said the other day to you, when you asked me about the window being closed, you do still have Austin Matthews and William Nylander. I don't mind going and trying next year to see if you can be competitive again. But that starts this season. And, I think part of this comes with making sure your cupboards are full of assets, whether they're going to be players and prospects coming through that can help you next year or the year after, or if it's going to be picks that can help you go out and land a big fish, if that's going to be the case. We talk about Robert Thomas being available. Well, I would love him in Toronto. That's no secret. We've talked about that enough. But what the hell are they going to trade to get him? What the hell are they going to trade to get Alex Tuch if he was available? They don't have those kinds of pieces. So you want to go and land the guy, you want to make a splash, you want to make something happen, you need to reload the cupboards. And again, it might not work next season, but you at least have to put yourself in a position to have the cap space, have the roster spots, have the assets available. And right now they have none of them. And it's been accumulation of 9 years in the making to get to this point. So start again, boys. Start again. You can keep the big guys, you can keep the big names, but everyone else, you got to be thinking about it.
Don't go crazy with this. It's just a matter of history. But, St. Louis Blues, almost traded for William Nylander, an Alex Pietrangelo deal before he re-signed with the Maple Leafs. So it's not as if, that's the thing. The Leafs could do something major. But if they're still tethered to 34.88.
Yeah. But I think that's an off-season conversation.
I don't
think
I don't
that's
disagree with
going
that.
to happen
I
right
don't disagree with that. But if Doug Armstrong was, full steam ahead, that Robert Thomas is going to be moved. Like I don't think the Maple Leafs do anything like that. I think it's, at the end of the season, after they make a decision on A, who's the coach of this team, and B, who's the manager of this team. As many people have pointed out, if you don't think that Brad Treliving is your guy, is this a powder dry by ownership's hand? By Keith Pelley saying, like, yeah, we're not going crazy here.
Which, the other conversation which was coming up on Saturday, which was brought up by numerous people, was the idea of Brad Treliving running this trade deadline and what the future is. There's not really much clarity on it from myself, and I don't think many people as of right now, but you've got what's more or less a lame duck general manager who's going to be sitting in that position, and I like Brad Treliving as a person. I liked him anytime he's, we've had communications with him on Leafs Morning Take and everything like that.
He's wonderful.
Great guy.
Yeah.
He's made a lot of mistakes, or maybe I should say he's lost a lot of trades. Maybe that's a better way to put it. He lost a bunch of trades here in Toronto, and now you're at a point where at this trade deadline, you have to come out of this with more wins than losses. And I think a lot of people
it's going to be tough
in this market are scared
tough.
of that.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. All right, more on this coming up over the next few days, leading into trade deadline. And speaking of which, we'll close on this. One of the most exciting days on the hockey calendar this Friday. Teams are setting up their rosters for the playoff push, freeing up cap space, adding future assets. Join the DFO crew on Friday, March the 6th at 11 a.m. Eastern for the Daily Faceoff trade deadline special. Hey, Zach, I want to get your thoughts on one thing as well. It was a tiny trade yesterday, but it got me wondering about something specifically. So Roman Schmidt gets traded for Boris Kachuk. Okay, this is a Minnesota-Philadelphia AHL deal. And you may look at that and go, forward for defenseman, it's a needs, I don't know, a minor league deal. But from the Minnesota Wild's point of view, picking up Roman Schmidt, and I think to myself, okay, so why does Matt Hendricks, who's a GM of Iowa in the American Hockey League, why is he looking at Roman Schmidt? Why is he looking at bringing him in? And it got me to wondering, we don't think that Bill Guerin is going to be done at all. They do have a lot of defensemen, and they do have a couple of right-hand shot defensemen playing in the minors who have had, certainly with Juracek, cups of coffee in the NHL. So whether it's like Spacek or Juracek, all of a sudden now, by bringing in Roman Schmidt, you have another right-hand shot in Iowa that can step in if you're going to include a David Juracek in a much bigger deal, and he's just a piece of it. That's something that I think in this trade deadline week we need to watch. Minor league deals, which sort of winks at future deals for the big squad. So we may look at that deal, Schmidt-Kachuk deal, and say, that's a tiny little AHL trade. But what it does is it insulates in case another one of those right shot defensemen get packaged up to bring in a center for the Minnesota Wild.
That's interesting. I did wonder kind of when that went through. It was like, all right, well, they're just loading up on shot team.
Right, no, right around deadline, I'm like, nothing is frivolous at this point.
Yeah.
And, after Friday, we'll look at it and go like, oh, that's why they picked up the right shot D from Philly. We just thought it was an American League deal and wrote it off. Or maybe Philly's looking to do something with one of their prospects at Lehigh. I don't know. We'll see. But I think that everything has, around this time of year, AHL deals all have messages attached to them. And that's why I sort of got the Spockian eyebrow about that one yesterday. Anyhow, apropos of nothing, we'll sign off on that. Thanks to the great Pierre McGuire for stopping by. And in the middle of a move, always kudos and thanks to our producer, the great Zach Phillips. enjoy the rest of your day. Trade deadline on the horizon, as we've been talking about. We have you covered that day. We also have you covered 24 hours a day at our website at dailyfaceoff.com. Thank you for watching / listening / chatting. If you've already subscribed, thank you. If you haven't, please consider doing so. And thanks to everybody listening on their favorite podcast platform. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're back tomorrow, 1 o'clock with more. Wish is back tomorrow. Are we done with the USA gold medals now? Are we done now? Was Saturday night and Saturday Night Live the conclusion of all of it? Is the conversation done? We'll find out tomorrow and talk more trades with Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. We'll talk to you tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern, right here on the sheet. Jeff Marek along with you. I hope you enjoyed the program today. If you did, or maybe even if you didn't, they can't all be gems, folks. Please hit the subscribe button. Also a reminder, every morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, Johnny Lazarus, Colby Cohen, I call them the Impact Players. You might know them as a tandem that makes up the Morning Cup of Hockey. Also DFO Live at noon Eastern. This year, your host Tyler Yaremchuk alongside Carter Hutton. Full day's worth of programming right here on Daily Faceoff, your favorite YouTube hockey channel. And as a reminder as well, Zach Phillips, our producer here for the sheet, said if you subscribe, he'll buy you a puppy. It's true.